We flew into Quito on December 4th, which was the middle of spring in Ecuador. Quito, which is the capital of Ecuador, is the highest capital in the world and rises 9,300 feet above sea level. You can imagine by the time we got to the top of hills that when we were walking, we just couldn't hardly breathe because of the lack of oxygen we were feeling. Quito stretches between the Andes Mountains and the active volcano of Cotopaxi. We stayed in the Old Town historical district known as La Ronda. I love taking photos of kids, and here are just some snapshots of some of the photos that I took of the children that were in Quito while we were there. Did you know that Panama hats are made in Ecuador and not Panama? This lady who was selling hats in a nearby park charged Bob a whopping $5 for the one he's got on. This is a huge winged statue of the Virgin Mary overlooking the district of La Ronda. From Quito, we flew to Coca, and then we motored by canoe down the wider section of the Napo River. After about 3 hours of doing that, we boarded another smaller canoe, and for an hour and a half, the guides paddled our way to the middle of the rainforest where we were staying. Our destination was the Napo Wildlife Center, which is an eco-lodge located in the heart of the Yasuni National Park. The Eco Center is owned and operated entirely by members of the Quechua native community. They have lived there for hundreds of years, and they decided to develop this eco lodge for tourists. Our hut is located right there. Today's Bob's 70th birthday, and you can see him coming out of the hut right now. You can hear the birds singing. They were really loud, and we heard them every day. They woke us up in the morning. Let me walk down a little closer to the hut so you can see it better. You'll notice we've got a little front porch and even a hammock there on the right that we use quite a bit. And our hut faced the Arunja Lake, so it was a beautiful view whenever we wanted to sit on the porch and look out. And every night we slept under mosquito netting to keep the bugs out. The mascot for the Napo Wildlife Center is the gold-mantled tamarin monkey. And this monkey is found only along the Napo River in Ecuador and Peru. We were really hoping that we'd be able to see one, and sure enough, we did get some good views of tamarin monkeys. These are feasting on local fruit that was just right by the observation deck. And this one is helping himself to a mouthful of banana. We were really excited when our guide pointed out this black anaconda snake. It's a young snake, but it is about 6 feet long. Squirrel monkeys were everywhere in the rainforest. It was really funny because we were looking for them, and when you see one, you start to see more and more and more, sort of like when you're looking for mushrooms. You know, once you see that one, you keep seeing more and more of them. Squirrel monkeys travel in troops of about 100, and because it was the middle of spring, there were lots of moms that were carrying their babies on their back as they traveled from tree to tree. You can see some of them if you look really closely right in this video. Here's a mom carrying her baby on her back as she goes up the branch of the palm tree. And then here's another picture of a mom that's picking out lunch for the day. And if you'll look really closely, you can see some little bitty hands by her side, so you can see that it's her baby. We were really excited when our guide pointed out this three-toed sloth. Sloths eat only leaves, so they lack the protein to build muscles. They move slowly because of their slow metabolism and also their small muscle mass. And the only time we learned that they come down out of their tree is to poop. Red howler monkeys are the loudmouths of the rainforest, and at dusk and in the morning, quite often we could hear them howling as they marked their territory. The guide said that you could hear them sometimes as far as 4 miles away. We only got this one glimpse of a spider monkey. Spider monkeys are the largest and the smartest of the New World monkeys. And these are capuchin monkeys that we saw fighting in a tree. They're young ones, and there were about 3 of them, and they were just wrestling around and just having a real good time. We saw these birds everywhere along the river. They're called huatzins, and they're really cool looking birds, but apparently they really produce a noxious smell, and the natives call them stinky turkeys. This male black-masked crimson tanager has found a really plump caterpillar that he's about to have for lunch. And I love this picture of the gray-breasted martin. Have you ever seen a more disgusted and pissed off bird in your life? This blue and yellow macaw is getting ready to drop down to the clay-rich watering hole at the bottom of the tree for a drink. The clay in the water helps the birds digest the unripe fruits and nuts that they eat. That's what this scarlet macaw is doing also. He's eating the clay and drinking the water all at the same time. This is sort of like eating an Alka-Seltzer or a Tums for the birds. It just helps their tummies feel better. Another source for clay that the macaws and parrots and parakeets use is from a cliff that has had a landslide exposing the clay for the birds to eat. Here you can see all types of parrots and parakeets. The green really blends in well with the trees, doesn't it? And if you can hear the noise that they're making, it's nothing compared to the real din that we experienced when we were standing there looking at the clay lick. The Napo Center had an observation tower that was 140 feet in the air. It was above the tree canopy, and one day we struggled up that thing. It just about killed us, but the birds that we were able to see were quite a reward. And here are some of the birds that we saw from the tower. Look at those bright yellow feet. This beautiful plant is called the bird of paradise, and it has been used by that magnificent old bird, the greater Moor, along with the female moor hen. And so the day after Bob's 70th birthday, we said goodbye to the Ecuadorian rainforest, and we and 8 other passengers boarded this small yacht called the Eric and went out to explore the islands of the Galapagos. As a young man in 1835, Charles Darwin explored these same islands on the ship the Beagle and the animals that inhabited them. He noted how specific animals were able to adapt from island to island, so that 23 years later, he published his famous theory of evolution. The old Spanish word for tortoise is Galapagos. These giant tortoises can weigh up to 700 pounds, 400 being that of the shell. Because these creatures can live for long periods of time without food and water, during seafaring days, sailors would capture these large creatures and keep them in their holds, butchering them for food later. This practice led almost to their extinction. This is exactly how I feel after eating a great big dinner. Can you identify with that? There are two types of giant tortoises. They're known by the different shapes of their shells. This one is a dome shell tortoise, and the other type is a saddleback, whose front carapace is raised, allowing the tortoise to raise its neck to feed on higher vegetation. Super Diego, shown here from Española, is a saddleback tortoise. When he was first brought to the reserve, there were only 8 female Española tortoises and him left in existence. Now there are over 1,500 of these tortoises. Super Diego is doing a super job and is still going, apparently. Sea lions were sprawled everywhere in the Galapagos, and as with other Galapagos animals, they were not at all scared of people. They just ignored us. Here are some of my favorite pictures of sea lions. This one is either snoozing or planking. This one is obviously not happy and barking. And this one is giving us the flipper. Because it was the middle of December, spring in the Galapagos, there were seal pups running around everywhere, and they were either playing or looking for Mom. Mom! This is apparently a seal pup daycare center. If you'll notice, there's a large supervising adult seal, and then the other pups are just running around playing, just having fun. This is my favorite video of a seal pup who's caught a puffer fish and, like any other kid, is playing catch with it. Where else but in the Galapagos could you see a sea lion under a cactus tree. Looks like he's posing for us. Or better yet, where could you see a penguin at the equator? This little penguin is swimming with two brown pelicans. The pelicans just strolled up and down the beach, right along with us. One of the most famous landmarks in the Galapagos is a rock formation that you can see through that cave, and it's known as the Sleeping Lion or Kicker Rock. In the big picture, the Galapagos are really newly formed islands. They were formed from volcano eruptions, and because of that, the landscape was like being on a different planet. This is the marine iguana. It's the only place in the Galapagos is the only place where you can find them. This large iguana is the only reptile that can dive 100 feet down to graze exclusively on sea algae. They can hold their breath for up to 45 minutes, and the males turn these bright colors during mating season. This one is nodding its head in order to mark its territory. You can see, you know by their bright colors, the red and green, that these two males are ready to party. Sally Lightfoot crabs can be seen all over the black lava rocks of the Galapagos. The babies are small, black, spider-looking crabs. Then in aging, they turn red, and then the oldest of the crabs develop these bright, colorful markings. The Galapagos land iguanas feed on cactus flowers and also use cactus trees for shade. The males can grow up to 3 feet in length, and some of them weigh as much as 30 pounds. Only a face a mother could love. These are some other shorebirds. Now we're going to talk about boobies. Get your mind out of the gutter. I don't mean that kind, I mean the bird kind. Boobies, with their ungainly walk on land and their abrupt crashing into water looking for fish, were my favorite birds. There are 3 kinds. Those 3 kinds are the Nazca, that have the black mask, the blue-footed boobies, obviously with those bright blue feet, and then here's a red-footed booby along with 2 other boobs that were in the boat. Part of our adventure was not only hiking like a new Army recruit on land, but also snorkeling like a Navy SEAL in the Pacific. It was a boot camp adventure. Here are some pictures that we took underwater. As I've said, spring and love were in the air while we were there. This is a photo that's apparently pretty rare because marine tortoises mate in the water, not on land. But apparently these 2 couldn't wait and are having sex on the beach. We were also lucky enough to see the courtship ritual of the large waved albatross. And this is it. Even the frigate birds with their 6 feet wingspans were looking for love. During mating season, the males puff up their red throats trying to attract a female. Both the father and the mother will raise the chick, who, when it leaves the nest, will not touch land for 2 years. Isn't this just like a teenager telling his parent just exactly what he thinks? Because frigate birds are so large, they can't get caught in the water or they'll drown, so they steal their food from other birds and from each other. Here are 2 frigate birds fighting over a fish that one of them has stolen from a booby. Remember, survival of the fittest. As our 2 weeks in Ecuador draws to a close, we say goodbye to the Galapagos and board our plane in Quito, where we also have a parting glimpse of the volcano Cotopaxi. So we're heading home.